Now, the eyes of the world are on Alaska, where Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are set to hold a high-stakes summit on the war in Ukraine later. It's the first time the pair have come face-to-face in 6 years. President Trump says there's a 25% chance the meeting could fail. Ukraine's president hasn't been invited, though Mr. Trump suggested he might arrange a follow-up with Volodymyr Zelensky if today's talks go well. Well, Andrew Levi is a former senior British diplomat who was posted in Moscow at the time of the Litvinenko murder in 2006 and who reviewed the UK's Russia policy after Vladimir Putin's invasion of Georgia back in 2008. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. So the White House has said that this will be a listening exercise for Mr. Trump. What are your expectations with your expertise of what this summit might achieve?
I think it's very unlikely to achieve anything that we could reasonably call peace. It quite probably won't even achieve a minimal ceasefire. President Putin is, since a long time, but has become clearer since 2022 to many people, an internally repressive dictator and an externally aggressive warlord, you could say. And he is looking to gain resources, regain the Soviet Union, but not through some imperial dream, but because resources are worth a huge amount. There are many, many trillions of dollars worth of resources in Ukraine, and it won't stop at Ukraine. If he can gain more territory there, it'll extend further westwards and in other directions, Central Asia and elsewhere. So the security of all of us is affected by this, including the United States. And I think that's the point that President Trump needs to recognize, and I'm honestly not quite sure that he does.
Are you concerned that in his wish for this to be over, in President Trump's wish, that he will end up doing some kind of deal over territory? Or attempt to? That's something that Ukraine have already said that they wouldn't accept. But do you think that's what he will push for?
I think it's quite possible. His wish for it to be over because he doesn't like the fighting, none of us do. His wish for it to be over because he believes he can do a massive deal with Russia. There's a lot of business to be done with Russia if one wants to approach it that way. We've done it in the past. To be honest, I was even involved in it, back in the days when we still did that business. And that is an extremely dangerous path to go down, given the circumstances that I just described. So I think Putin will be looking for, if you like, that weakness on Trump's side. And Trump may well be willing to go down that path. By the way, as you've said, this is all over the heads of the Ukrainians. And it does have a horrible echo of 1938 and Neville Chamberlain and Munich.
Does the fact, though, that this process appears to be coming in stages help as well? Was it sensible in some ways, do you think, of President Trump to meet Putin before trying to involve President Zelensky, to sound him out, if you like, and find out where his ground lies before then taking and involving President Zelensky in any discussions?
I think if one's trying to find a good solution to all of this, and one prepares it all in advance very carefully with the Ukrainian president, the Ukrainian government, with the European governments who, of course, have been talking to President Zelensky and trying to be helpful both to him and to our own security needs. Keir Starmer and Friedrich Merz and Emmanuel Macron and so on, they've been meeting with him. Then that would be a reasonable suggestion that you're outlining there. But that doesn't seem to be the way it's been working from the American side. Of course, there may have been things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Perhaps it's been better prepared in terms of US-Ukrainian discussions than we think.
In terms of President Putin and the idea of any bargaining, what's the give and take, would you say, from him? What might he be willing to concede on?
Well, I think it's take and take from his point of view. He currently controls, the Russians currently control about 20% of Ukrainian territory. The Ukrainians, as you will remember, made an incursion into the Kursk oblast of western Russia they held a fair bit of space there, but they're now, if they hold anything, it's down to a few square miles. So there is nothing to give and take. From Putin's point of view, for a temporary ceasefire to perhaps get some advantage in his relationship with Donald Trump, he might, I would underline it strongly, might, say, well, I won't demand quite as much of territory that I don't yet hold, to be given to me as I would otherwise do. Right? His basic demand is I must be given control over whole areas that I only currently partially control, and that's my minimum demand. So he might go back slightly from that if it was to please Trump and he thought he could gain advantage from it. But I think we need to be clear: any pause or ceasefire would be in order ultimately to regroup and carry on invading later. I think that has to be the underlying assumption for the rest of us.
And you talked about other voices. I mean, European diplomats have had a series of conversations this week to try to keep Ukraine's interests at the forefront of Mr. Trump's mind. Do you think that will have been effective in any way, or do you think that the president will be going into this, entirely looking at finality, but also about the US and the future of the US trade and other things?
Yeah, I'd say two things. I mean, one is that the Europeans have a huge, important role that they can play, not only that they must play, but they actually can. Europe, if we club together, Brexit or no Brexit, from the UK's point of view, we're part of European NATO, we have a close relationship with the EU these days. Europe can support Ukraine financially and with weaponry, as long as the US doesn't actually place an embargo on us doing that. So, because a lot of the weaponry is American. So we can have a huge influence, even without the US really helping Ukraine all that much directly. As for Donald Trump, whether he wants to make use of that fact that the Europeans can do that and hopefully will do that, or whether he wants to try to circumvent it for other reasons, that's very hard to say. The worry is that he will want to circumvent it for other reasons and will want to do some kind of grand bargain with Russia, which benefits business interests, let's say, put it that way, in the USA. I don't think that the idea that he's trying to get Russia on board so as to avoid Russia allying with China either is really true, nor does it would it really work, okay. I think.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and analysis this morning. Andrew Levi there, former senior British diplomat.